Welcome to Shatter.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. It happened at a party. Not just any party. Her company's annual end-of-quarter celebration. Cocktails, small talk, low lights, and enough fake smiles to make your skin itch. I was standing by the bar, nursing a half-empty glass of something too expensive to enjoy, when I caught her laughing. Emma, my wife, laughing in a way I hadn't seen in months. But not with me. Some junior exec was talking too close, grinning too wide. She leaned in, resting a hand on his forearm, and that laugh, that effortless, alive sound I used to think was mine, echoed across the room. She didn't look for me once. I waited. 10, maybe 15 minutes. Then I walked over. I wasn't trying to cause a scene. I just stood next to her and smiled like I belonged. Like I wasn't invisible. She glanced sideways, barely hiding her sigh. "Oh, Jake," she said. "Can you get me another drink?" "No, hi. No, you made it. Just a task." Like I was staff. I didn't answer. Just stood there. Then her friend Claire, the one with the sharp tongue and no filter, slid up beside me, looked Emma dead in the eye, and said, "If you're gonna ignore your husband, I'm borrowing him." Before I could react, Claire grabbed my hand. Firm. Intentional. "Dance with me," she said. Not a question. A command. She pulled me toward the dance floor. Me, a guy who avoids dancing like it's a court summons. I didn't resist. From the corner of my eye, I saw Emma's mouth open. Then close. Then nothing. Claire leaned in. "You deserve better than that," she whispered. "You're not wallpaper." That hit harder than I expected. The music thumped. We moved. Not well, but enough. For the first time in a long time, someone was actually looking at me. Not through me. Not around me. When the song ended, I thanked her, made my way back to the bar, and Emma was gone. No text. No glance back. Just gone. We drove home in silence. Correction, I drove. She scrolled. In bed, she turned away from me without a word. I stared at the ceiling for hours, her back inches away and miles out of reach. That night, something inside me turned off. Not out of anger. Not betrayal. Just clarity. She wasn't confused. She wasn't overwhelmed. She had made her choice, long before the party. She just thought I hadn't noticed. But I had. She thought I'd always be there. She was wrong. And this was the beginning of the end. Only she didn't know it yet. But she would. Soon. The morning after the party, I watched her from across the kitchen. She stood barefoot, pouring oat milk into her coffee, scrolling her phone like last night didn't happen. Like she hadn't handed me off like a coat to her friend. No acknowledgement. No curiosity. Just another silent performance in the home we no longer shared. Just occupied. She didn't ask how I slept. She didn't mention Claire. She didn't ask why I didn't come to bed until 3 a.m. I waited for something. A glance. A crack. Nothing. So I made a quiet decision. I would stop participating in the illusion. I didn't slam a door. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't ask for anything. I just became less. Less available. Less responsive. Less hers. At work, I skipped the check-in texts. The little emojis she never answered anyway. I ate lunch alone. Stopped checking her calendar. Stopped pretending to care when I knew she didn't notice whether I did or not. By Thursday, I had rerouted part of my paycheck to a new account. Just mine. Not a secret. Not hidden. But silent. Like everything else I was starting to reclaim. Friday night, she came home late. Hair curled. Lipstick perfect. No explanation. I was already on the couch, watching something I actually liked for once. She paused at the entryway, like she expected me to ask where she'd been. I didn't even look up. That was the first shift she noticed. She stood there a little too long, then disappeared into the bedroom. I didn't follow. Saturday, she made pancakes, something she hadn't done in months. She wore that oversized hoodie I used to love, like she was playing a part she barely remembered. "Want some?" she asked over her shoulder. I said I'd already eaten. I hadn't. She nodded, like it didn't matter. But I saw it. The hesitation, the flicker of something behind her eyes. Not regret. Not yet. Just confusion. She didn't understand the new rules. That night, she asked what I thought about watching something together. Something we used to binge. I told her I wasn't in the mood. She waited for me to say more. I didn't. She thought I was sulking. That I'd crack. Apologize for her indifference. What she didn't know, What she hadn't even begun to realize was that I had already started packing. Not boxes, not clothes. I was packing away the version of me she used to count on. The man who would chase. The man who'd fill every silence. The man who tried to make her smile even when she wouldn't look at him. That man was dissolving. And all she had left now was the echo. She noticed the silence before she understood it. The stillness where my effort used to live. No more morning coffee for two. No more reminders about appointments. No more cleaning up after her when she left dishes in the sink like someone else was on staff. The shift was slow, precise, strategic. She started testing the air, tossing out little hooks, asking if I'd seen a funny video she sent. I hadn't, because I didn't check. Asking if I was working late again. I was, even if I wasn't. Then came the friend check-in. Claire, the same woman who pulled me onto that dance floor, sent a casual message to both of us in a group chat. Dinner soon? I miss seeing you too. I saw it before Emma did. I waited to see how she'd react. She stared at her phone a little longer than necessary, then typed something safe. Sure, let's plan something. But the smile she forced as she looked up from her screen didn't reach her eyes. A few nights later, I came home late. Gym, drive, nowhere to be, just nowhere near her. She was waiting in the kitchen, wine already poured, scented candle burning. Like that alone could reverse the damage. She wore the dress she used to wear when she wanted something. She said she'd made reservations. Italian, the place we went to on our first anniversary. I said I'd already eaten. She blinked like I'd hit her. She asked if I was okay. I told her I'd never felt more focused in my life. She asked if I still loved her. I didn't answer. I just looked at her. Not cruelly, not even coldly, just gone. Because the truth was, I didn't even hate her. Hate requires energy, and I'd stopped giving her that, too. The next morning, I turned off the shared calendar notifications, removed her as an authorized contact on my personal accounts, cleared out the shared streaming profiles, changed passwords without announcements. Not to punish, not to scare, just to separate. She had treated me like an accessory, a prop she could pick up when convenient and drop when the spotlight shifted. But now the lights were off, and she was starting to feel what I had lived with for too long, the quiet erosion of relevance, the slow death of being needed. She called my name down the hall that night, said she couldn't sleep, asked if I could just come talk, just for a second. I said I was tired. She said she missed how we used to be. I didn't respond. She stood outside the door for a long time after that, but she never knocked, and I never opened it, because doors, once closed long enough, start to disappear. The next week, she started trying harder, but not for love. For control. There's a difference. She began dressing up for dinner again, even when we weren't eating together. Lipstick, perfume, clothes that used to mean something between us. She played music she knew I liked, suddenly curious about my day, about the gym, about who I was texting. I gave her nothing. Not cruelty, just absence. I became something she couldn't argue with. A man without friction, without questions. A shadow in his own home, one she couldn't hold, predict, or pin down. That Friday, I got home late again. She was pacing, candle burning again. The same wine bottle, half empty now, glass in each hand. She asked if we could talk. I nodded, out of habit, not interest. She asked what was going on. I told her I was just tired lately. That's all. She searched my face for a crack, a moment of softness she could climb back through. There wasn't one. She asked if we were okay. I said I didn't know anymore. That landed differently. She wasn't used to hearing uncertainty from me. I'd always been the rock, the fixer, the one who smoothed the edges. Now she was standing in a storm I didn't start, and realizing I wasn't offering an umbrella anymore. That night, she waited in bed in silence. In lingerie, lights dimmed. Her body turned toward me, like an invitation. I walked in, grabbed a charger from the nightstand, and walked back out. She exhaled sharply. I heard her mutter something under her breath, but I didn't turn around. She could whisper to the air for once. The next morning, I left before she woke up. Gym, coffee, a long walk in the cold without music in my ears. Just space, breath. I wasn't running from her. I was walking back to myself. At work, I started staying later. Not because I had to, but because being home felt like stepping into someone else's lie. Even my coworkers noticed. One of them, David, asked if everything was okay. I just smiled and said, Everything's changing. That's all. He nodded like he understood. Maybe he did. That night, Emma texted. Said she missed me. Not I miss us. Not I'm sorry. Just those 3 words, dangling in my inbox like bait. I didn't reply. Let her sit with it. Let her feel what I'd felt for months, reaching out into silence and getting nothing in return. This wasn't revenge. This was reflection. She was finally seeing the version of me she had created by ignoring the one she married. And now? Now she was starting to understand the cost of indifference. Because the version of me she thought she could still reach was already gone. The first time she called me at work, I let it ring. I stared at the screen, her name glowing in bold letters, and did nothing. When it went to voicemail, I didn't check it. There was no emergency. I knew that. This wasn't about concern. It was about control. She could feel the gap widening and needed to know if I'd still close it for her. I didn't. That night, I came home to a clean house and her in the kitchen, chopping vegetables like we were hosting guests. She'd lit candles again, made pasta from scratch. She even had music playing, the same playlist she used the night she told me she loved me for the first time. She smiled when I walked in, said it was a surprise, said she just wanted to do something special. I thanked her, ate in silence. No compliments, no questions, just nods and chewing. She poured wine, trying to pretend this was normal, that nothing had rotted beneath the surface. But I saw it in her eyes. Every smile was forced. Every glance was searching. She was playing a part, hoping I hadn't read the script already. When she reached across the table, hand brushing mine, I pulled away. Slowly. Not harsh. Not rude. Just absent. She froze. Then looked down. The silence after that felt like concrete. Later, I found her sitting in the living room alone. The wine still half full. The playlist still looping. She didn't even look up when I passed by. The next day, she started asking where I was going, what time I'd be home, who I was meeting. I kept it vague. Out. Later. Just someone. The answers weren't meant to hurt. They were meant to reflect. She had asked for space for months, emotionally, physically, in every cold shoulder and unspoken shrug. Now she was drowning in it. By the end of the week, she was following me into rooms, bringing up old memories, laughing too loud at things I hadn't said. She was trying to revive something she had suffocated, like dragging a dead plant into sunlight and hoping the leaves would forget. But you can't reignite what you've already buried. One morning, she stood in the hallway, holding an old photo of us, smiling, back when things were still soft between us. She didn't say anything, just held it out, like evidence. I looked at it for a second, then walked past her. I wasn't being cruel. I was just being done. And sometimes, that's colder than rage. Because she could argue with anger. She could cry at confrontation. But silence. Silence made her face the echo of her own choices. By the middle of the 3rd week, I stopped pretending I lived there for anyone but myself. I moved the spare keys off the hook, locked the office door she never used, cleared out the shared drawer in the bathroom, and packed my things into a single, silent bag I kept in the trunk. I didn't tell her. I didn't leave a note. I just prepared. Slowly. Calmly. She still tried to maintain the illusion. She invited her sister over for dinner, pretending everything was fine, smiling too wide, pouring wine too fast, telling stories I hadn't heard in years, mostly because they weren't hers anymore. When her sister asked if I was okay, I said I'd never been more focused. That was the word I kept using. Focused. Because it wasn't sadness. Wasn't bitterness. It was precision. That night, after her sister left, she asked if we could talk. I said I was tired. She asked if I hated her. I looked at her, and for the first time, I said what needed to be said. I don't think about you enough to hate you. She didn't respond. Just blinked. Like the words hadn't landed yet. The next day, she texted me at work. Said she wanted to take a weekend trip, just the 2 of us. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere we could reset. I never replied. When I got home, her suitcase was by the door. Packed. Hopeful. She was sitting on the couch, wearing the same sweater she wore on our honeymoon. She asked if I was ready. I told her I wasn't going. She asked why. I said I already left. She stared at me like I'd spoken another language. She kept looking at my hands, my face, my keys, anything that might give her context. But I gave her none. That night, she sat in the living room alone, suitcase unopened, reservation emails still glowing on her phone screen. The music wasn't playing. The candles weren't lit. I could hear her moving from room to room, opening cabinets, pacing, like maybe if she touched enough of the past, it would reappear. But it didn't. I had become a ghost in my own house. But not the kind that haunts. The kind that leaves no trace. The following morning, she asked if I wanted to go for a walk. Said the weather was nice. Said we could talk, maybe. I said I already had plans. She asked if I'd be back for dinner. I said nothing. Let her sit in it. The silence. The wait. The distance she once begged for, now returned in full. And for the first time, I could see it on her face. She wasn't wondering if I was coming back. She was wondering when I left. By the fourth week, I didn't need to say anything at all, because others had started saying it for me. It began at a mutual friend's birthday dinner. I almost didn't go, but I showed up alone, 15 minutes late, dressed better than I had in months. New shirt, clean shave, no ring. She was already there, seated at the far end of the table. She smiled when she saw me. Too wide, too rehearsed. Someone asked, jokingly, if we were still married. I shrugged. Depends what you mean by married. There was laughter, but not from her. She went quiet after that, stirring her drink more than sipping it, staring at the ice like it could explain the cold between us. Later, I heard her in the kitchen with another woman, Melissa, I think. Someone from her office. The voice was low, but not quiet enough. He's so different lately. I don't know what's going on with him. Melissa answered like she already knew. Maybe he's just done waiting. That stuck. Emma didn't speak for the rest of the night. Not to me. Not to anyone. The next day, she posted an old photo of us online. A filtered memory from some vacation we took 2 years ago. Captioned it with something vague like, hold on to what matters. It got a few likes. Mostly from people who didn't know the context. I didn't comment. Didn't even view it. That week, I spent more nights out. With coworkers. With myself. Anywhere that wasn't filled with the tension she kept pretending didn't exist. When I came home late on Wednesday, she was sitting in the dark. No wine. No music. Just silence. She said we needed to talk. I told her I'd already said everything I needed to, just not in words. She asked if there was someone else. I said there was. Me. That landed harder than anything else. Because she knew it was true. I was becoming someone again. Someone I used to be before I shrank to fit inside her cold routine. I started reconnecting with friends. Took a weekend trip without telling her. Slept in a hotel just because I could. And I didn't check in. Didn't explain. When I came back, she had cleaned the entire house. Made dinner. Left my favorite dessert in the fridge. I didn't touch any of it. Not out of spite, but because I didn't need her offerings anymore. She could decorate the house with regret, but it wouldn't rebuild what she destroyed in silence. And I think she finally knew. She wasn't losing me to someone else. She was losing me to the version of me who remembered how it felt to be respected. By the time she started begging for moments, I was already gone in every way that mattered. She left sticky notes around the house. Little reminders of affection, scrawled in a handwriting I barely recognized anymore. Have a good day. Miss you. Let's talk tonight. I didn't respond to any of them. Just peeled them off quietly, tossed them into the trash without emotion. They felt like apologies sent too late, like whispering, I love you at a funeral. She tried cooking again. Tried wearing perfume. Played the old playlists we used to share. I heard the notes echoing from the kitchen while I packed the gym bag I never brought back inside anymore. She still asked me where I was going. I stopped answering. It wasn't about cruelty. It was about clarity. She asked if I hated her. Again, I just looked at her and said nothing. That night, she followed me down the hallway. Said she wanted to fix it. Said we could start over. That we could see someone, a therapist, a coach, a priest. Anyone. I said I already saw it clearly. She stood there in silence as I closed the door to the guest room behind me. That had become my room now. My space. My calm. The next day, I heard her crying in the shower. Soft, muffled sobs through hot water. It didn't move me. I wasn't numb. I was finished. When I left the house later, she was in the living room staring at her phone. Not scrolling. Just staring. Like she was waiting for something to come back to life. I didn't look back. That weekend, I drove to the mountains. No signal. No timeline. Just cold air and distance. It was the first time in years I slept 8 hours straight. No tension in my shoulders. No waiting for a door to open or close behind me. She texted twice. I didn't read them. I deleted them from the lock screen. When I came home, she tried again. She asked if I was willing to rebuild. I asked if she remembered how long she spent tearing it down. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. That night, I started moving things. Slowly, quietly. My documents. My name from the utility bills. My personal accounts were already separated. Now the space would be too. She noticed. Of course she noticed. She asked if this was it. I said it had been it for a while. She just wasn't paying attention. She asked if I was punishing her. I said no. I was just leaving the room where I'd been forgotten. She looked at me for a long time then, longer than she had in months, searching for something, an opening, a crack. But I was done being breakable. And in the stillness that followed, I saw it. For the first time, she wasn't trying to win. She was trying not to be left behind. Too late. It unraveled faster than I expected. 1 week after I moved the last of my things into a new apartment across town, she called. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail. Her voice cracked in places, practiced in others. She said we could still fix this. That she'd changed. That she finally saw it. That she missed me. I didn't listen to the rest. 2 days later, I got a message from her sister. Just a single sentence. She's not doing well. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't care, but because I wasn't her caretaker anymore. That role ended the day she started treating my presence as optional. She still hadn't told many people. Still trying to control the story. Still framing it like a rough patch. Not the implosion it had become. But people talk. Friends ask. And slowly, the narrative slipped through her hands. At work, they noticed the ring was gone. At the gym, I started laughing again, something I hadn't done in months. I saw myself in the mirror and didn't look tired. I looked free. Meanwhile, she started posting cryptic quotes on social media. About trust. About regret. About timing. Half directed at me, half designed to pull sympathy from people who didn't know better. But you can't post your way out of the truth. Her world was shrinking. One mutual friend asked me privately if I thought she was okay. I said I didn't know, and I didn't lie, because she had built a fortress out of distance, sarcasm, and cold detachment, and now she was stuck in it alone. She sent one more text. I understand now. I'm sorry. No ask. No question. Just those words. I didn't respond, because understanding doesn't rebuild what you spent years ignoring. And apologies don't bring back the man who used to wait for you to care. She thought the fall would be dramatic. Tears, fights, scenes. But it wasn't. It was quiet. It was grocery bags dropped at the wrong apartment. Friends who stopped inviting her to dinners. A family that started asking the wrong questions. A bank account that didn't fill itself anymore. It was loneliness. Real, irreversible loneliness. The kind that sits with you in the dark and doesn't blink. And I was already gone. Not just from the house. From her timeline. From her plans. From her future. And for the first time, I realized. The collapse wasn't mine. It was hers. The last time I saw her, it wasn't planned. I was coming out of a coffee shop, black coffee in one hand, gym bag over my shoulder. She was walking in, alone, face pale, hair tied back like she hadn't slept. She froze when she saw me. Like I was a ghost. Like seeing me in the daylight confirmed that I was real and gone. She opened her mouth like she was going to say something. But nothing came out. And I didn't stop walking. Not out of cruelty. Out of finality. There was nothing left to say. Nothing new to feel. Just space. Real space. The kind that doesn't ache anymore. The kind that feels earned. I used to imagine we'd have a final conversation. One where she'd cry, and I'd tell her everything I'd been holding in. But that fantasy belonged to the version of me who needed closure. This version, he needed peace. And I'd found it. In silence. In solitude. In routines that didn't involve waiting for her to notice me again. She sent one more message that night. No words. Just a photo of us from years ago. Smiling. Happy. Before the shift. Before the cold. I looked at it for exactly 3 seconds. Then I deleted it. Not because I hated her, but because I no longer recognized the man in that picture. I'd outgrown him. I'd buried him. And in his place stood someone who didn't chase affection with breadcrumbs or beg to be seen. Someone who didn't raise his voice, but walked away and never looked back. The next day, I changed my number, closed the final shared account, removed every photo from cloud storage. She was still alive, still out there, but she no longer had access to my life. Not my time, not my thoughts, not my peace. And maybe, just maybe, that was the real ending. No screaming, no scene, just absence. Sharp, absolute, unbreakable. I don't know what she tells people now. Maybe that I was distant. Maybe that I gave up. But the truth? I gave her every chance. She just didn't notice until it was silent. And by then, I wasn't waiting for her to wake up. I was already gone. Not lost. Not broken. Just free. So if she ever wonders what happened, where I went, why it ended so quietly, the answer is simple. I didn't disappear. I just stopped showing up where I wasn't respected. What would you have done in my place? If the story hit you, leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe. It only gets stronger from here.